and Loan. You came on the show a couple of months ago and we had a chance to talk a little bit about the bank.
Hmm.
But one thing that I've learned in terms of leadership is you've got to repeat your message. You've got to repeat things and re-repeat things. And when you get tired of saying it, people are just starting to catch on because sometimes there's a different group of people that are listening.
Right,
So you
right.
have to come back and you repeat your message. So I would like to say that before the end of this show, we are going to tell you about a home buying seminar that is sponsored by Columbia Savings and Loan in tandem with Port Washington State Bank. And we're going to give you the date and the time and the location of that before the end of the show. So stay tuned because that's going to be important. It's going to be a free seminar. They serve like a light refreshment, like a lunch type of meal. And you're going to find out a lot of good information to qualify for home ownership. It's going to talk to you about the importance of having a good credit score, some assistance with respect to those sorts of things. And there's a number of things that the seminar will talk about, but we'll get into that a little bit and we'll give you that information later. But right now, I just wanted to welcome Wes to the show and have to introduce him and to find out a little bit about who is Wes McKenzie. Tell
Yeah,
us about yourself.
that's a great question, Coral. Um, but I'm sure you don't want to know that I like long walks on the beach and reading books.
Hey, no, that's good too. That's
My
good.
We'll start with my banking career. I started in banking in 2009. I was working at a
Wait, hold
go ahead.
on. No, you are homegrown Milwaukee talent. So I don't want to start with your banking career. I would like to start with you telling everybody that you were born in the Milwaukee area, where you went to school, and a little bit about your family, all of those things.
Born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I am a homegrown Milwaukee man. My family, obviously, in Wisconsin as well. Milwaukee. Let's see, where did we start? Okay, like I said, born and raised in Milwaukee. Went to University School of Milwaukee. My grandparents had a daycare center on King Drive in Burleigh. My most of my entire life, called Utopia Child Care Center, and it was more preschool than a daycare. So I saw entrepreneurship at an early age, business ownership, family, and also giving back to the community. Um, Graduated, went to Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia, prestigious HBCU. Came back home, started working at the family business.
So, but wait, how were we so fortunate to win you back after going to Hampton?
Honestly, I love Milwaukee. I really do. People can talk about the challenges and things that face our city and the issues that we have, and every city has issues. Every city has challenges, and I always felt like those of us who recognize the issues and the challenges, we leave and go to school and don't come back, and it's never going to get better. So it's like, how can I say I love this city, city that raised me, city that made me, and then just abandon it for potentially better opportunities, but guaranteed different problems as well. So so I came back home. I knew, and my family was here too. So that's
Right.
also that's also a big part of it. And I mean, I know Milwaukee.
What did you major in at Hampton?
I majored in sociology.
Okay.
I like sociology is the study of society, right? People always, how people tick and how people move, like what makes them work, that always interested me. And it was between psychology and sociology, and I went with sociology.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of times you hear people that are from Milwaukee
Mm-hmm.
really put Milwaukee down. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people will say, "Oh, I can't wait. I got to leave Milwaukee. I got to get out of Milwaukee. I don't know how you stay in Milwaukee." And I like Milwaukee.
I do
I
too.
like the Four Seasons. I like the lakefront. I
Correct.
like a lot about Milwaukee. I
Mm-hmm.
like the size of Milwaukee.
Right.
I don't like little small towns, but I don't necessarily like huge cities either.
Right. And Milwaukee is, I don't think people realize how much green space we have in Milwaukee, like our parks department, and even like you said, the lakefront. I don't think people understand how fortunate we are to be by such a big body of water.
Right.
Because you go to some big cities that are landlocked, they're like, "Oh man, I wish we could go to the lake." We take advantage. Like, "Oh, we're going to the lake. Oh, you going to the lakefront again?" Like, like it's not a big deal that we've got this great lake and this beachfront, and so it's it's unfortunate that people feel that way about Milwaukee, I think.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. And but people are entitled to feel how they want to
Yeah,
feel, but I just
everybody's
don't tolerate when they try to project that onto me
right,
because I'm entitled to feel how I want to feel too.
right about my
So
city.
anybody wants to debate us on that, call us 414-444-5250.
Mhm.
That's 414-444-5250. That's the number for the show station. Feel free to call in with your comments or questions. But go ahead, Wes.
And like you said, Coral, I mean, people feel so strongly about Milwaukee. Last time I checked, 43 South is still open. So I mean, if you if that's how you feel. Last time I checked, 43 South is still open. So is 94 West. So either way,
Either way
either
you
way
can
you want to
get
go,
gone,
you can always
whichever
get out of here.
direction.
Yeah.
Right, right, right. Okay, so I interrupted you a little bit. So you earned your sociology degree in what year?
2002.
Okay. And then did you come straight back to Milwaukee right away after that?
It was 2003. I came back home.
2003 you
Hmm.
came back home. Okay. So oh, it looks like somebody's going to take me up on that and call
Somebody's
in on
calling a debate about
our
Milwaukee.
challenge about liking Milwaukee. So we'll interrupt for a second and go ahead and take this call. Caller, go ahead
Well,
please.
well, I'm not going to shoot against Milwaukee because I love Milwaukee. I
Oh,
take my hat
good.
off to the young brothers that's here. I'm a Milwaukeean. I'm a full Milltown guy. I don't like people that come here and talk about how bad Milwaukee is. Tell them to go home and get your money there then.
Right.
Because I'm gonna tell you, I love Milwaukee. I'm a businessman. I'm born and bred and raised. I did move to Mississippi. I love South. That's my parents from. But I'm
Okay.
gonna tell you something. There's nothing like Milwaukee.
Love to
All you
hear
got
it.
to do is get with it.
Love to hear it. What kind of business are you in?
Auto repair.
Auto repair. All right.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Is your establishment local here in Milwaukee? Is it
Yes,
open and
it is.
running?
Yes,
Go
yes,
ahead.
it
Go
is.
ahead and tell us what it is.
Inland auto repair. I do small mechanics or major auto body. I have two places, two locations. And my dad started in 1954. So
Wow.
I pretty much took over in 94. I've been through a lot of changes. Guys, I'm a victim of gun violence, but I tell you like this here. Is nothing like trusting God and being in Milwaukee.
All right. Well, we love it and much success to you with your businesses. This is the show about money. So, business, money go
Right.
hand in hand. So, thank you for calling and sharing with us this morning.
Amen.
Okay. Amen to you too. Take care. Okay. We have another caller. Caller, go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Thanks. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for taking my call. And assalamu alaikum to you all. I have to give you the greetings. And that just simply means peace be unto you.
Received.
Um,
Thank you. Also unto you.
yes, ma'am. Um, I'm born and bred in Milwaukee. Milwaukee, the city, the county, the state of Wisconsin. There's a lot of things that I could say with regard to um Milwaukee, but here's the thing: it's not so much that people that who are even from Milwaukee that when they accumulate things, it's not that they hate Milwaukee; they hate the establishment or the gatekeepers or the overseers who prevent opportunity for those people who have accomplished things to qualify themselves for particular roles or particular places in executive in an executive position or even in a lay position. So when a lot of people do matriculate or accumulate enough knowledge that becomes viable, whereas they can they can sell themselves and sell their abilities in another market or another place, and that opportunity looks more attractive than where they were born. it makes it a lot easier for them to go there, as opposed to staying when they understand that whatever it is that I do endeavor to accomplish concerning a discipline. And I hear a lot of people speaking about sociology. And sociology, that's right, the study of societies. It's forecasting what a society might do and then and that and thus far. But the thing about sociology is at its crux. Who are the people who perpetuate the idea or the ideal of this particular society? So if you do study sociology, it will be easy for you to forecast something because we are in a cyclical and a repetitive or redundant society. That is why there it is easy to say history repeats itself because nothing has changed. As the saying goes, the more things change, the more they remain the same.
Your points are very well taken,
Thank
and
you.
I think that everyone has to do what is right for him or herself in their own individual circumstances. So appreciate that call for calling. And yeah, we are talking to our degreed sociologist here turned banker, which is what we're going to get to, because we're going to talk about we're talking about our homegrown talent, but it's very relevant today because we're talking about Columbia Savings and Loan. At least we're going to. But I wanted to get just a little bit more background with respect to you, Wes, because you were telling us about your grandparents that had the Utopia Child Care Center, and
Hmm.
everybody's seen that and heard of that. And then there were other business entrepreneurship in your family as well, right? There was
Hmm.
was it your grandmother that had her own hair salon?
Yeah. So before she started Utopia, she had a hair salon. It was actually her mom's hair salon that she started working in, and then she took it over. And my grandfather was a brick mason by trade, so they both had thriving businesses prior to starting the daycare.
Okay.
Um,
And your grandfather had a connection with Columbia Savings and Loan, correct?
my No, that was my great
Your
grandfather.
great
That was
grandfather.
my grandmother's father. He got a loan for his first home at Columbia
Right.
when he wasn't able to get financing at other places because of the historical times.
Yeah. Well, tell us about that a little bit. What was it like back then? And when are we talking? Like the 1920s, 30s?
So we're talking. She was born. So we're talking 50s.
Okay.
No, no, we probably yeah, probably late 40s, early 50s
Okay.
when
Okay.
he was
And so
purchasing
the
a
climate
home.
was what? It was business, hardworking business people like your great grandfather
Hmm.
were not able to get a home loan through traditional banks because there was a practice of discrimination at that time.
Correct.
And this is one of the reasons that Columbia got started, but we'll talk about that a little bit further in the show. But your great grandfather then was able to successfully get his first home loan through Columbia Savings and Loan.
Correct.
So how nice is that happened in your family, and now here you are, senior vice president at that bank.
It's definitely a full circle
I'll
moment.
say,
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So tell us a little bit about what that's like being in your position.
Well, understanding the historical significance of Columbia and why it was started in 1924, because we couldn't go to other financial institutions. It was started out of a need, and they recognize that there are people in our community who need access to capital. They can't get it outside of our community, so let's bring the capital to our community. And that is the I think that's the beautiful thing about how it started and why it started, as well as why we continue, is bringing that capital to our community.
Right, right.
Mm,
So Columbia was started by Wilbur and Artie Halyard
correct.
back in 1924.
1924.
And what was their reason for starting this bank?
Because we couldn't go to traditional bank. We couldn't go to other banks, and we weren't being treated successfully.
Right,
Our We weren't being treated fairly.
fairly.
So there were I mean, let's just paint the time in society. It's 1924. Civil Rights Act happened in the 60s. So this is, slavery is ended, but it's not like everything was great going on in society. It's not like, things were equitable. There were very clear distinctions on what we could and couldn't do. In 1924, okay, I'll tell you this. When my grandparents were looking to purchase their home in the 70s, there were clauses the uh in the contract, like, do not sell to a black family. That was the 70s. So we're going back 50 more years to 1924.
And for anybody that thinks the 70s is ancient history, um, three of the four people in this room were alive in the 70s.
Correct.
Okay, it wasn't
Yeah,
it wasn't
it's
long
not
ago
that
at all.
long ago.
Debo saying not you. He said, "Don't do the math on you today."
Hmm.
That's the question in regards to like Halyard Park.
Hmm.
So I'm assuming that development was named after the founders of the bank.
Correct.
I remember like the Claytons lived over there. I know Stella and Henry Love live in that area. So a lot of development took place. Was that tied into the bank at all?
I am not for certain. I don't know.
That'd
if,
be something good to know.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can't speak to that.
Yeah, yeah. So we can look into that and maybe even
Mhm.
talk about that because we're gonna have Wes coming on the show time, now and then, and because there's a lot of history in 100 years,
Definitely.
and
Definitely.
you've been with the bank since January,
Correct.
right?
January 16th, 2024.
Yeah, so still relatively new tenure, so there's things to learn.
Hmm.
And I came on board doing um, the show sponsored by the bank just in February.
Right.
So we're
Right.
still a little bit new to the history, but we're learning.
Yeah,
We
because there was
are.
a lot of prominent folks. Joe Williams, he owned 2 or 3 gas stations. He lived in that area as a development, built from the ground, and that was the
Mhm.
significance of that area. They were building from the ground, so a lot of owners of businesses and so forth, found their permanent homes pretty much in
Okay.
Halyard Park.
Okay.
I'll
Mr.
bet
Clayton
you.
from 7th and Locust, he had Clayton's Grocery. He
Mhm.
built over there, so just a lot of prominent folks.
Okay.
Gene from Gene's, he lived in that area as well.
Okay.
So yeah, lot of folks that had a little coin
Yeah.
found comfort in Halyard Park.
So I'll bet if we look that up, I'll bet you that there's some ties there that maybe Columbia financed some of those homes, or maybe even with some of the business ventures, depending upon what they all were. In fact, I think that the last time we talked about this, there was at least one example of that we were aware of. But I'm fuzzy on the details, but we'll circle back and we'll end up talking more about that another time. But yeah, so Columbia, I should just briefly announce the NMLS ID number for Columbia Savings and Loan Association is 810969. Um, but you were talking, Wes, and you were telling us that Wilbur and Artie Halyard started this bank 100 years ago. So
Mhm.
that's why we're celebrating the 100th year this year. There's going to be more announcements to come on that a little bit later in the year, but there is going to be a gathering of sorts where people will be invited to come and celebrate that 100-year anniversary with us. Is that right?
Definitely. Definitely. We are, this is our centennial year. So in September of 2024, the bank will celebrate its 100-year anniversary. And one of the things that we want to do, instead of just having one celebration on the 24th, we want to celebrate all year long throughout the 100th year. And the big thing that we want to do, we want to get 100 families into 100 homes during that 100th year. So during our centennial year, we want 100 new families to get into 100 new homes in Milwaukee throughout that year. So that's really that's going to be our celebration, being able to get 100 new families into homes in the city of Milwaukee, and what that will do to change the community, change the landscape of Milwaukee. You've got homeowners, you take a different pride in your lawn when it's yours versus you're renting. Neighborhood schools improve. It's just, there's a trickle down effect where everything will get better. A rising tide rises all ships. So as Columbia is getting better and we are um, improving, the community will get better and the community will improve. As the community gets better and improves, Columbia gets better and improves. We're so interconnected that we are our success is the community success, and the community success is our success.
Well, that sounds to me like an admirable mission. I know Columbia is referred to as a mission bank.
We are.
That's the mission. What you just said, I
Yeah,
think that's the mission,
most definitely.
and it's a good one. So when we come back from our break, we'll talk a little bit more about that. And please continue with your calls. The number here is 414-444-5250. That is 414-444-5250. And we will have more for you after the break. Thank you so much. It's Money Talks with Attorney Coral.
The Center for Teaching.
Telling you a little bit about the history of the bank. I know that we're celebrating 100 years of this bank being in operation, but a lot of times people will say, "Oh, Columbia, I thought that bank closed," or we're going to talk about that a little bit because I want you to
Mhm.
tell everyone where Columbia Savings and Loan is currently located.
Columbia Savings and Loan is 2020 West Fond du Lac. So we're on the corner of Fond du Lac and North Avenue, the intersection. We've been there for 2008. Um, so that's where we're located. We are thriving. We're open Monday through Friday. 9 to 5 and Friday until 6. Um,
But closed on the weekends, right?
Correct. We're closed Saturday and Sundays. Um, so that's where we started. And previous to that, that's the second building. Previous to that, we were in the same location. It was 2020 West Fond du Lac. So we moved essentially next door to our old building. The building got built. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that confuses people sometimes because the old building is still standing and there's still a sign there that says Columbia Savings and Loan. And it's clear that that old building is no longer a building that's in use. And so I think people sometimes think that Columbia Savings and Loan is not in business anymore. Not true.
Not at all. Uh, we are open for business. We are thriving. We are here to bank everyone and all of their needs. So whatever anybody listening needs, anyone listening can come into Columbia Savings and Loan. We would love to have you as a customer. We'd love to have you in, let you see what we have going on, and let you know that we're still here.
Okay. So before we talk about those things, I'm going to give the number again in case anyone has any Columbia Savings and Loan stories that they would like to share. The number is 414-444-5250. That is 414-444-5250. So I wanted to go back and just talk about, you mentioned Wilbur and Artie Halyard starting this bank back in 1924.
Mm-hmm.
And as I understand it, they started this bank with $10.
Correct.
I don't know how you start a bank with any amount of money, quite honestly, but $10. But they did what they had to do, right?
Right.
And they
Right.
did it as a response to the times where African American people couldn't get home loans through other means.
Right.
And this was a time where there was a thriving district where Black people lived in Milwaukee, where there
Mhm.
were different business owners. There was a funeral home, and there was a, you know, there were just a myriad of businesses, hair
Correct.
salons, anything you could think of.
Mhm.
And so even though people were operating these businesses and earning good money, they
Mhm.
still couldn't go out and qualify for home loans through the traditional organizations. So Wilbur and Artie, who were college educated individuals from the South,
Correct.
right? I think
Mhm.
she was from Georgia and he was from South Carolina,
Correct.
and hence the name
Hence the name
Columbia,
Columbia,
right?
capital
From
of South
Columbia.
Carolina.
Yep,
Right.
exactly. I think you told me that
Right.
last time we talked about this. So they came here and decided to open this bank with $10, and they were not able to quit their day jobs because the bank wasn't prospering to the point where they could take any money away,
Right.
not right away. So from what I understand, he earned a real estate license and became a realtor.
Mhm.
And so that was his grind, his day job, how he earned the living to take care of his family.
Right.
But his wife also worked in retail, so
Mhm.
she was, you know, at a clothing store, working at a clothing store, selling retail items, and that's how they made it until they really got this bank up and running. So that's just tremendous to think of anybody even doing that.
Right. The amount of sacrifice that it takes to do something like that, and the forethought to, something that they started 100 years ago is still up and running, and it's still continuing the mission that they started. I just think that's an amazing uh, testament to their vision and their I can't even think of the right word, but just they recognize an issue, they presented a solution, and it's still solving the same issue. I just think
Yeah.
that's an amazing story.
Well, and they had to contend for it with
Right.
what they were doing because they started Columbia Savings and Loan inside of a funeral home.
Correct.
It didn't even have its own standalone building at the time, but they had to start somewhere,
Right.
and they
Right.
had to start as economically as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they built it up a little bit, then it moved. I think the funeral home at that time was somewhere around 6th and Cherry Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then they moved to an 8th Street location not too long after that.
Correct.
And then came Highway 43.
Correct.
Talk about that a little bit, Wes.
of course, I wasn't around back then. My understanding
None
from
of us were around back then.
my understanding from this story is coming from my grandmother. Shout out to my grandmother, Jackie Ross. She
Yeah, hi Grammy.
she
Shout
let
out to Grammy and to your mom Rhonda,
yeah,
who I
shout
know
out.
said we're going to be listening today. So
Right.
shout out to both of
Shout
them.
out to mom and Grammy.
Yes.
Um, so the the district you're referring to is Brownsville. So it's the Brownsville neighborhood. Black that was the black thriving neighborhood in Milwaukee. And like you said, it was 8th Street. So my grandmother was telling me that the bus the bus station, there was, I think she called it a commuter station on 8th and North Avenue. So you have to think in this day and time, families had one car. So everyone was out of a household, one person took the bus, usually either the husband or the wife. So when you, she said that 8th and North Avenue, a commuter station. So if you got to 8th and North Avenue, you could get anywhere. And Columbia was on 8th and North, and this is prior to 43. So the freeway is not built. So North Avenue looks totally different. There's nothing coming through. It's businesses everywhere. Walnut was like, that was all Bronzeville. That was all the thriving black businesses were. That was our neighborhood. Like that was all the thriving black businesses. And then somebody decides to build a freeway, and it comes through and disrupts all of that, disrupts the entire neighborhood. And it's just like, move. The city didn't come in and say, well, how would you like to, what do you think about this? Or what if we, no, move. So from 8th and North, then we went to the previous building on Fond du Lac. And that was, and again, not being around back then, but when the freeway came through, it disrupted and displaced not only the black businesses but also black families.
I was going to say homes too, I'm
Correct.
sure.
So it's
Okay, churches. Yeah.
so then, so now schooling is different. If you're on 8th and North, you're going to the school in that neighborhood. But if a freeway comes through and destroys 3 blocks, now you may move into the same neighborhood. You may have to you may move to a totally different neighborhood. Now you're in a totally different school. So it just changed so much of black Milwaukee in that in that instance. Just the freeway coming through doing that. So
that was when, like the 1950s? Does anybody know?
I'm not for certain. Let's see what Google has to say about this.
Late 60s is when my church moved.
Okay.
Rehoboth Elder Wallace was down there for many a year, and that was, as he said, the entertainment district. Lightning Hopkins, a lot of those guys played a lot of those clubs and stuff down in that area. It was where folks were.
Right, right. It's hard to even picture Milwaukee now without that thought of 43 just kind of running,
Because my
right
aunt
through.
lived right behind Orchard Field on 7th and Burleigh, but the freeway came through, so now that's freeway, and that's where the baseball games were before County Stadium.
Mm,
So all of that was in our neighborhoods, and subsequently had to move due to the freeway.
right, right.
It was the 60s.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. So I'm thinking it was even longer ago, but the 60s,
Right.
that's wow.
Yeah.
So that's how that happened.
Right around during the civil rights era.
Right,
Right.
right,
So
right.
that's all of, I think sometimes we forget when we talk about history and things in the past, the culture and what was going on in the world. You talk about the 60s, we weren't allowed to go in certain parts of town. Like it was known, you have no business being over here because of the color of your skin. And if you're caught over here, it's going to be a problem. Not it might be a problem, it's going to be a problem. That's a different world. That's a different, it's almost hard for us to fathom or hard for us to wrap our minds around. Oh, we couldn't, like, no, you couldn't go over there. And if you went over there, it could be dangerous. So given that as we're thinking about, okay, let's even talk about how you're starting the bank. It couldn't, I don't imagine anybody came and said, hey, you guys are doing this really great thing. It's really a good thing that you're doing. We want to help you out and support you. I can't imagine that they got many phone calls like that. I can't imagine people were very supportive and were giving them help. This is 1924. You could vocally express your dislike for people and nothing would happen. So I can't imagine that it was just smooth sailing once they opened up. I can't, like, the types of threats that they probably got, the types of things that were said to them, just the resilience that they displayed to get through all of that and continue and just press on so that we can be sitting here talking about what they
Right.
did 100 years ago.
Exactly. I mean, they
Yeah.
did a lot, so you and I can be sitting here talking about this.
Right.
They definitely took the laboring oar to get things going. I know that they were active in the NAACP back then,
Hmm.
so they probably, had support from peers, but that's not the same as there. It wasn't like it is now, where we've got other partner banks that'll come and say, "Hey,
Correct.
we'll put a 250,000 deposit in your bank,"
Correct.
and of course, those banks get credit. They get CRA credits for working and putting deposits with Columbia. It's not
Correct.
it's not a handout
No, not at
to
all.
Columbia by any means. We do our part and do what needs to be done with
Definitely.
respect to every aspect of operations.
Hmm.
But at least there is that sort of support that's out there now. Whereas when they were getting started with that $10, I'm sure they talked to other business owners and just said, "Hey, come here, take a chance on us. Put your
Right.
deposits here in order to build things up." Because it's my understanding that by the 1950s, so it took a while,
Hmm.
but the early 1950s, they had built this bank to the point where it had $4 million of assets and deposits.
Right. Which is an amazing feat
It is
in that day and time.
right,
For two people to take $10 and turn it into 4 million. I don't think people recognize like what that took. And I think it's also a testament to Black Milwaukee, and how we can, it's like we were talking about earlier. People talk about Milwaukee and all the challenges and everything, but look at the potential of what could be. Look at the potential of if every Black person in Milwaukee got their mortgage at Columbia. Where we where could the bank go? Like I said earlier, as the community rises, we rise. As we rise, the community rises. If every Black person came to Columbia to get their mortgage, we'd have more in assets. We could
right,
do more. We could give better rates. We could be more competitive. So it would speak to, like, so Black Milwaukee got behind the Halyards in 1924, and in, let's say, 30 years, they took $10 and turned it into 4 million. We have way more than $10 right now as a community, as a Black Milwaukee. There's no reason as a community we shouldn't collectively be coming up. There's no reason that everyone shouldn't have something with Columbia. It took, so the Halyards had the dream, but Milwaukee got behind them. Black Milwaukee got behind. Now, granted, it's a different time. We didn't have a choice. And I think that let's really talk about that. We didn't have a choice, so we had to go to Columbia. Now we've got a choice and we don't go to Columbia. Now that's what needs to be addressed, because you can go to any bank you want to in the state. Why don't you go to the Black bank? Now let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Before, our grandparents couldn't go to other banks. They weren't allowed to go to other banks. And not only that, they didn't even want us at the bank. Let's talk about that part. If we're really going to talk about things, they didn't even want us at the bank. And now the law says that they have to let us come in. They didn't change. They didn't change and say, "Oh yeah, we want you." No, the law said now you have to let us in. They didn't change and "Oh yeah, we want you now." No. Columbia has always wanted us. Columbia has always been for us. But all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, well, I'd like to go over here." And I understand there are things that there are different advantages that other banks have. We can't do everything. we can definitely do your mortgage and do your mortgage very well.
And you
So
can open a savings account if you're not ready to have a
100%,
mortgage.
100%. So there are, I think that is, Black Milwaukee got behind the Halyards to support them, and because Black Milwaukee didn't have an option of going anywhere else. Now Black Milwaukee has an option, but Black Milwaukee should choose to come to Columbia Savings and Loan.
All right. Well, we need to put a face out here on it, and that's part of what you are here
Hmm.
today. And so I think the more we get the word out and we let people know, and we'll talk more about where you are and how to reach the bank. But I did want you to just address the question that Debo had earlier about the Halyard Park with respect to Columbia.
We did. We found out Columbia spearheaded and led the financing for Halyard Park. So you were correct.
Another piece of homework for you.
Okay, sounds good.
My first line of credit was from this store called Columbia Clothing.
Hmm.
I believe it was across the street from the bank.
Hmm.
Would that be any affiliation? Check it out.
I'm
Don't answer right now.
Gonna have to
Check
find
it
out
out.
about that.
Yeah, I
Because
was
when
gonna
you
say,
when,
no,
when you
that's a
said
real
when you
good
said
question.
that Miss Halyard went into retail,
Right.
it makes me think. And again, it was my first line of credit. I mean, you could go in and pick out a really nice outfit and pay over time. You had credit. So yeah, that would be a great tie-in for me to know that I had some affiliation back in those days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got a
Okay.
caller, looks like.
Sure does. Caller, thank you so much for joining us. Go ahead with your call.
Well, I did speak to you earlier, but I'm gonna speak to you. I like Columbia Bank. I'm just saying.
Oh, he hung up.
Oh,
He
he
just
said he
wanted to
likes
speak his
Columbia.
piece, and now he gone.
All
Thank you,
right.
sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that support. We appreciate that. The number here, if you'd like to call in, is 414-444-5250. That is 414-444-5250 if you'd like to call in with questions. So, Wes, why is it important for people to own a home? What are the benefits of that?
Is a great question, Coral. There's so many different benefits to owning a home. I say the first one is, it's going to sound weird, but ownership. Instead of paying rent when you are purchasing a home, at the end of, let's say you purchase a home, you get a 30-year mortgage. At the end of those 30 years, you meet all those payments and that requirement. That home is now yours. So that home can be, you own it. So it can be left to your family. It can be left to your kids. Let's say you decide to, or so that's one thing. So home ownership, you've got a stable residence for the family, someplace for them to be. Um, the ownership, you're able to build equity in the home. As you own the home, when property assessments just went out and they assess the value of the property, whatever it's worth, you can begin to use a home like your personal bank. Take out an equity line of credit, depending upon what you're trying to do. Now you can use your home like your bank, borrow against your home. In terms of, uh, let's see, how else is it? In terms of creating better neighborhoods and better communities.
That's what I was going to say.
When you
Stabilizing
have
neighborhoods, right?
when you have homeowners there, homeowners have a different pride in their property. They take different care of their yard. They're more concerned. They're looking out for each other. They're looking out for the neighbors, because this is where you're going to be for presumably, let's say, 10 to 20 years. You want to get to know the people around you. You want to, find out who's living next door, who's across the street. And not to be nosy, but just, hey, we're going to be neighbors for 15, 20 years. Let's get to know each other. You don't necessarily have to come over, but, you wave across the street and everything. Um, what else? I mean, there's so many things, Coral. Um,
Well, it ties into some of what I've been talking about on the show in terms of estate planning. That
correct.
that gives you usually that's the greatest asset in any estate that a
It's the
person
home.
has in
Mhm.
order to pass wealth on to the next generation, which is something that sometimes African American people haven't been in a position to do. But if we are, then that's helpful. I mean, the other races have been doing that for generations and generations, which is why the African American community has the lowest percentage of the national wealth.
Right.
So and so all of this is tied in together. These are opportunities for people to thrive in their personal life here and now, but it's also opportunities to pass things on to the future generations. So it is so very important. So
Definitely.
how do they reach you at? Well, first of all, tell us what you do at Columbia Savings and Loan. And I'm sorry to just now be asking you that. I
Oh,
meant
no
to
problem.
ask it earlier, but I know what you do. So so I forget sometimes that we need to let the audience know, and then tell them how to reach you if they're interested in applying for a home mortgage.
Okay. We're on uh 2020 West Fond du Lac. So if you are in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, you can find me there Monday through Friday. Phone number is 414-374-0486. Again, that's 414-374-0486. And for I'm senior vice president overseeing day-to-day operations, loan officer. The big push right now is home mortgages, getting the loans in, getting customers in, getting them approved. So that is my main focus right now. Getting getting out, meeting potential customers, talking about the home mortgage process. A lot of networking, trying to get out to home buying events, things like that, letting people know that Columbia is here and we're ready to take care of your mortgage needs.
That's good. Now, people are at various stages of the home buying process.
Hmm.
There are some people who are ready. They may even be pre-approved by some other organization. Come
Hmm.
talk to us before you close the deal.
Most definitely.
That's what I want to get that little plug in. Um, but people who are already at that stage of the process, maybe you even have a home that you have already identified that you would like to purchase and you just need to get your funding, but you're ready to go.
Hmm.
We can talk to those people. But there is also this home buying seminar that's going to be coming up. I don't know if you had a chance to check the date on that. I believe it's next month sometimes. And if we don't have the exact date,
It's June 27th.
okay, so June 27th.
Hmm.
So a little bit away, but time just flies because we're the 1st of May.
Right.
So that's
Right.
next month coming up. So tell us a little bit about what that's going to be.
So that's going to be one of the home buying seminars that we had. We're partnering with Port Washington State Bank, and it is, if you are thinking about purchasing a home, if you've ever thought about purchasing a home, even if you own a home, it is just general knowledge and information about not only the home buying process, but home ownership as a whole. So we will, and wherever you are in the process, if you're ready to purchase a home, if you have no idea where you are, if you're just thinking about it, you can come and get information to prepare you for that process. Let's say you are ready to buy a home, we can get that process started for you. If you're just thinking about it, we can let you know what steps to take in order to be ready when you are there. So it's great information. If you are, like I said, if you're thinking about purchasing a home, or if you ever think you might want to purchase a home, it would be great for you to be there.
And that's what I wanted you to say because there are people out there right now that are listening that are thinking, "Oh, yeah, I would love to buy a home someday,
Hmm.
but I'm not ready to do that right now. Maybe I don't have maybe I don't have a stable reliable income yet,
Hmm.
or maybe I know I need to fix some things or clean some things up from my credit report,
Hmm.
or maybe there's other things. I don't know. There could be a number of reasons why people may not be ready right at this time, but this home buying seminar is still so important because you're going to get that information that'll get you on your way.
Right.
That's the way to get going. That's where to get started, and
Right.
it's free. There's no charge. You
Right.
come and you're gathering information and you're learning things so that you can prepare yourself. Maybe it'll be a year from now, 2 years from now before you're ready to buy, but at least you'll know that you're on course,
Right.
right?
Right. And that's the thing about it, Coral. Like you said, you'll know you're on course. You may not know exactly where you are in the process or what you're doing, but if you want to get to Texas, you should be headed south. So if you're going in the right direction. So I think that is the thing. It will give you a roadmap to home ownership,
Right.
and that's essentially what it's going to do.
Okay. So we had a caller. Oh, it looks like we lost him. I was going to just turn my attention to that call. Sorry about that, caller. We have a few minutes if you get a chance you'd like to call back. But right now, we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we will come back with more Money Talks with Attorney Coral and Vice President, Senior Vice President Wes McKenzie from Columbia Savings and Loan.
Hey Milwaukee, Tavis Smiley here. I am pleased to bring my show to Brewtown starting Monday, May 6th, 5 p.m. on the new WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM, the voice of the Milwaukee community. You will be entertained and empowered, I promise you.
Center for Teaching Entrepreneurship presents its third annual Big Head Soiree, Thursday, May 16th at the Marcus Performing Arts Center in the Bradley Pavilion. I'm Andrea Williams, and I'll be your host for this spectacular event. It's designed to salute the co-founder, Miss Radonna Rogers, as she loved to wear big hats. And this is one way we honor her. We will also celebrate and recognize the accomplishments of Milwaukee's leaders in entrepreneurial ventures. So, ladies, this is the time to wear your big hat, and guys, your stylish fedora. You will be treated to a delectable dinner and the sounds of Soul Sirius starting at 5:30. The program will begin at 7 with more entertainment and the awards program. Tickets are just $75. Go to Eventbrite using BHS 24 or call 414-788-8104. That's 414-788-8104.
This event is being sponsored by BizStarts, Brewers Community Foundation, Chase Bank, U.S. Bank, and Wisconsin Black Chamber of Commerce.
One of the most important holidays of the year is fastly approaching, Mother's Day. Here at WNOV, The Voice, we want to assist you in celebrating this special occasion, be it your biological mother, adopted mother, stepmother, godmother, aunt, grandmother, or whoever that woman is in your life. Be the 8th and 9th caller when you hear, I always love my mama. She's my favorite girl. And you will be entered to win a WNOV Exquisite Mother's Day package, which includes a $250 gift certificate from Robert Hack Jewelers, a $200 gift certificate from Hawkins Hats and Things, a $200 American Express card, a $100 gift card from Red Crab Seafood, and a flower bouquet from Carter Creation. Be the 8th and 9th caller when you hear, I always love my mama. She's my favorite girl. For your chance to win in this
Talks with Attorney Coral. Thank you so much for holding, caller. Please go ahead with your question.
Okay, thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
My grandparents, my parents, and myself are banked with Columbia Savings and Loan. Now, my grandparents are deceased, and so are my parents, but I still have an account there. And I'm a part of Amani United, and we are busily talking to residents about home buying. Matter of fact, we went and observed 3 model homes. So it would be neat if you want to grassroots start doing something and visiting some of these community organizations to start talking about it. We have the first Saturday meeting this Saturday at the old St. Leo's on Locust over there, but it's at the Dominican Center, right down from there. So that would be good if somebody were to come out and start talking to us. I can mention it to Marissa, who's the executive director, and let her know that, like the person sitting next to you that works at Columbia Savings and Loan. You want to go soft, you start soft. You want to be a doctor, you have to sign up for that first class. But you can do your research and be prepared even if you're not ready right now. to clean up some things and talk to people about, okay, how should I go about paying these bills off? And
Oh no, I was hoping that we wouldn't lose her because I was going to ask her for specific contact information because I'm not familiar with the Old St. Leo's or Dominican Center. Okay, so maybe she'll call us back. Otherwise, we can do a little research and try to find her or that organizations. But there's a meeting already this Saturday, so it would be an opportunity,
Right.
for us to get out there and at least make an appearance and let people know we're here.
Mhm.
Please reach out to us for additional information and make that connection. So I'm so grateful for that call, and we're going to look into getting more details. Either that, or please give us a call. Go ahead and give the bank phone number again, and invite the caller to call you directly at the bank, please, Wes.
Again, my number at the bank is 414-374-0486. That's 414-374-0486. And you can, whoever that was that called, I would love to be in attendance on Saturday. So if you could give me a call and give me the details of that, I'd love to be there.
Right. I think that sounds great. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So, okay. So if you would again, please, Wes, just let everyone know when the home buying seminar, when and where it will take place.
The home buying seminar is going to be June 27th. It will be at Columbia. There will actually be two that day. There'll be one at noon and then one at 5 p.m. So we'll have two seminars. There'll be light refreshments served, 2020 West Fond du Lac. So that will be June 27th, one at noon and one at 5.
And I believe that the preference is that you register so that the organizers will know how much food to order.
Correct.
Basically, right? So that'll be the preference, that you register. So call the bank with the number that Wes just gave. Eventually, on another show, I'll give other information about how to register for the seminar, but it's good enough to even just call the bank and say, hey, my name is so and so, I'm interested in this seminar, and I would like to be added to the list of people who will attend. So yeah, thank you so much. I want to thank you again, Wes McKenzie,
Thanks
for
having me,
Senior Vice President, Columbia Savings and Loan Association. Thank you so much for being with us here today and all the information that you shared. Thank you to all the listeners for listening in, and the callers that called. Was a wonderful show today, and I hope we gave out good information. We want people to get those home loans with Columbia Savings and Loan Association. Thank you so much, Mr. Debo, for doing your thing. And yeah, thanks, listeners. See you next week.
Thanks again, Coral.
I'm sorry, I forget my youngster on the end, Mr. Carvey. Bye, everyone.